We've got some good content, but I think we can pack it in. And if there's any questions, we can address at the end. We're just going to, at a high level, cover, why metrics and visibility are important to the supply chain, and then take a look at a tool of how you can actually start using and creating some of your own key performance indicators to help drive improvements with a focus on the warehouse. Excuse me, I gotta get to the end of my presentation. I started at the beginning. So let's start again, replay everything I said. So information is essential both inside and outside the organization. Over the past 20 years, as Nick had mentioned, the trend that I've seen has been toward partner collaboration, meaning working closely with your partners and your trading exchanges. However, without access to real-time information in your internal supply chain, it's difficult, if not impossible, to collaborate with your trading partners. So you really can't do what's expected. A recent survey by Aberdeen Group, highlighted here, says organizations are facing pressures to deliver information that is timely and effective in meeting business goals. This requires companies to have access to the information, the ability to combine, aggregate, and integrate this information, and then deliver it to the people when, where, and how they need it. What I get from this statement is the importance of supply chain visibility, business intelligence, and key performance indicators that you can use. And we'll talk about those next. In the session, we'll cover general supply chain visibility concepts and discuss why you should be interested in improving visibility, show examples of daily operational visibility tools and how they can be used to streamline your operations, and end with showing examples of more strategic business intelligence tools and key performance indicators, or what we call KPIs. Again, the Aberdeen Group also conducted research to determine the top operational pressures facing organizations, their plans for action, and the capabilities they feel are necessary for success. The survey highlighted key issues in the supply chain shown here that can be addressed with improved supply chain visibility and the use of metrics. Under pressure to meet recessionary and hiring challenges, today's supply chain executives are working to contain fundamental costs of doing business. Everybody wants to reduce costs. At the same time, these executives are focusing their attention on both short and long-term strategies. So what does this mean to our topic? Well, with better visibility, you can improve inventory positioning and service levels, being able to address this specific issue. Visibility tools enable you to more easily share supply chain and shipment information with your key stakeholders, which means your trading partners are going to be satisfied. And overall, improved visibility will allow you to improve supply chain performance while reducing your supply chain execution costs. So it's going to take care of those two primary issues as well. The bottom line, companies continue to need to do more with less and are embracing a lean supply chain. Some of these objectives can be supported and improved through supply chain visibility and leveraging KPIs. Supply chain visibility has historically been dependent on automated communications using traditional means, such as emails, faxes, and phone calls, self-service internet-based communications, and EDIs. So there's a lot of ways to get information. For example, manufacturers could view orders and schedules going to suppliers, and suppliers can monitor inventory levels and communicate this information back with quantities and dates. In a collaborative and open visibility environment, trading partners see the information they need to support future demands. An environment where you openly share information with your key suppliers defines a true partnership. Efficiencies can be realized through the use of improving both communications and visibility in the supply chain. But challenges arise in a business environment where companies have to deal with a comparable large volume of information coming in through these different channels. While having access to multiple sources of this data can be helpful, if you don't have the systems in place to help you turn the data into usable information, you can quickly become overwhelmed. Next, we'll take a look at an example of what typically happens to a supply chain with poor information sharing. You may be familiar with the concept of the bullwhip effect in the supply chain. It's been around probably 15, 20 years now, where latency and demand signals result in potentially significant inventory discrepancies up the supply chain or over the lifespan of a product. This is especially significant for new product introductions with short product life cycles. For example, true end customer demand might start off strong, but taper off over time. When a new product is introduced, early on, supply may not be able to meet initial demand, or demand may be greater than expected, resulting in real physical shortages in the supply chain. As the shortages occur, your channel partners get anxious, and they tend to overorder in an attempt to meet demand and stock their shelf. Think about things like the iPhone or anything Apple related. Demand is always higher than what they expect. As the supply catches up with the demand and the channel partners' warehouses fill up with inventory, the orders are canceled and product is starting to get returned. But the efforts to ramp up production in the supply chain are still in place, resulting in an oversupply situation as the real demand begins to taper off. So you can see here we're becoming fat with our inventory levels at that point in the supply chain, until finally supply and channel orders are nearly aligned with actual end customer demand. By then, the next product is being introduced and the process starts over again. Open communications and visibility in the supply chain helps minimize effects of the bullwhip effect. For manufacturers, suppliers, and distributors, you can be more aligned while holding less inventory if they have access to accurate and timely demand information. To many in the supply chain, the goal is collaboration, as I mentioned before. In many respects, it's difficult to collaborate without visibility or key performance indicators. At a macro level, visibility might mean sharing demand signals up and down the supply chain. In this simple supply chain example, demand signals from the customer trigger upstream demand signals from the wholesaler or retailer, triggering activity. Information then flows up and down the supply chain as product moves from the supplier to the customer and cash flows from the customer to the supplier. Or bringing it down to our operational level, you should be able to provide data to trading partners on inbound goods, typically in the form of EDI ASM transactions, or depending on your level of trust with your trading partners, provide them real-time access to inventory availability and KPIs. As companies become more interdependent, supply chain event management in the form of alerts becomes essential to help proactively plan around key events and exceptions. Or let's say you want to grow your eBay or your Amazon dropship channels, which many Accellos customers do. In many instances, to meet the requirements for these partners requires the ability to respond to demand requests within hours. This requires a high level of certainty and visibility into your operations, and some customers I've talked to demand 100% certainty. But without effective controls and visibility in the warehouse, your operations will become the weakest link in the extended supply chain, putting key trading channels at risk. But what can you do? I suggest you can improve your supply chain visibility and performance starting in the warehouse. The different types of warehouse visibility and performance management we will show in this section are inbound and outbound order management, transaction logs, and at a macro level, business intelligence and KPIs. Warehouse visibility will have both an external and internal benefit. Internally, having the ability to manage in real time receipts and outbound orders will help improve your overall operational efficiencies and reduce operational bottlenecks. You should also be able to track daily transactions in the warehouse. I'm going to take a look at different visibility tools in the AccellosOne warehouse, and specifically the receipts work center and order work center and the transactions logs. So I'm going to move from the PowerPoint over to the live environment. So you'll pardon me here while I'm actually switching screens. And what I'm going to be doing now is logging in. I'm logging in through a cloud environment. So what you see here is the actual AccellosOne warehouse management system. And what we've built over the last couple of releases is the concept of work center. So everything you see kind of can be managed through a work center. So this is part of the visibility that customers are being able to realize. So what we have here is a receipts work center, which is basically an electronic board of all of our the receipts that have been downloaded from our ERP system. It gives me the granular level of detail that I need to see. This is the header level details. If I wanted to see the lines associated with a specific order, I could select the lines tab, and if I needed to see specific statistics associated with how many orders I have selected, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, I've got 49 orders that are available to me. If I want to look at the detailed statistics on how much effort it's going to take to process all the orders that I have out there, I can see I have 49 orders, 83 lines, 12,000 units, and it's going to take me about 1.5 people a full day to process all these orders if I so decide to do that. Again, from a visibility standpoint, you can easily come over and customize this view to your specific needs.
Hey Chris, I just want to butt in for a second. I'm not seeing I'm not seeing your screen there.
Not seeing it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still seeing the PowerPoint.
Huh. Let me come back and reshare if I can. Thank you for that heads up. Doesn't help if you don't see what I see. So can you see anything different now? Maybe the AccellosOne Work Center?
Still.
I think someone just said they could see. Who was that, Tom? I got a note that said someone could see it.
Okay, good, yeah. Actually, yep, I'm seeing it now, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's important for you to see, Nick. So, so this is the Work Center. And again, I apologize if you can't see it. Just ping Nick if you can't see anything besides the PowerPoint screens, because we're actually in a live environment now, and it shows a receipt Work Center with the statuses of the orders down the left-hand column, and I have row headers of different data that's available for me to see. So I can easily toggle. What I did is I did a right-click on the header screen, and I can easily come down and see relevant information that's important to me. What I think might be important, these are all the different data fields you can select from. Again, from a visibility standpoint, I like to see the number of lines and the number of units associated to my orders. Again, so it helps me with from a labor planning standpoint if I can see what type of work is expected. So that is a receipt work center. We also have an order work center, which is it helps us with understanding. It's an electronic board of all the orders that have been downloaded from our ERP system. Again, I can navigate. I can change the display of the data here based on what I want to see. You can see the statistics tab on the right-hand side. Again, it shows me the values and labor expected to process some of these orders. And again, if I wanted to sort based off of different criteria, I could look and see unallocated, held short, held replenishment. If you're using AccellosOne Warehouse today, you're probably familiar with these different statuses. So I can sort on those different statuses. I can do ascending and descending. And again, if I wanted to see the order line associated with that, I could easily navigate down and look at the order lines associated with a specific type of order. One more work center that we have is it's called an inventory work center. So it's basically, it's an electronic snapshot of all the inventory by bin detail that I have in my warehouse. Again, if I wanted to see specifically allocated lines or open purpose lines associated to a specific product number, I could highlight that. But what I'm going to show here is the logs. I talked about the transaction logs before. If I wanted to see all the transactions associated to a specific item in a specific bin, I could come here, take a look at the date and timestamp. I could look and see when it was received, when it was hold codes were changed. I could see if it was picked short in that situation. So it's got a specific time and date stamp associated with a specific user. So it gives us that level of detail that's going to help us manage a more effective warehouse. So that's a transaction log. And those logs can be exported to Excel or any other type of tool that you feel you need to have access to. So I'm going to navigate back to my PowerPoint screen. Nick, can you see the PowerPoint now, or you still see the order work center?
You know, my Wi-Fi is provided by the hotel right now, so I just think my Wi-Fi is not sending the signal over. So
the luxury of free Wi-Fi. Okay. Yeah, if you can't see, so I'm back in the PowerPoint now. So if anyone cannot see the PowerPoint slide that says using KPIs, then just let me know and I'll slow down or refresh. But we're going to take a look at understanding and using KPIs in the warehouse and review the AccellosOne Business Intelligence tools. So we'll go back to a couple more PowerPoint slides before we go back in. So what I wanted to do is kind of see, I'm not going to ask a question, I mean, it's going to be a rhetorical question, but ask you if you're already using performance metrics in the warehouse, or if you're trying to keep track of them manually. Just kind of what are you tracking today, and maybe what are some ideas or things you could be tracking differently going forward. So I'll talk about a couple different things that you could be tracking, and then we'll talk about ways how to track different types of data. So the first thing is the perfect order index. You may have heard of a perfect order. Everybody wants to ship a perfect order, but there are different metrics that go into the perfect order. But the goal of the warehouse is to efficiently and consistently prepare and ship perfect orders. Well, what does that mean? For a best practices organization, shipping a perfect order is achieved at least 99% of the time. That's typically a best practice. A perfect order will have the following performance metric characteristics and best practices targets. The perfect order will be delivered on time at least 99.4% of the time. It will be shipped complete at least 99.95% of the time. Excuse me, 99.5%. And it will be shipped damage-free at least 99.9% of the time. And it will have all the correct documentation at least 99.99% of the time. So whoever determines what the perfect order index is, those are the metrics that kind of define if you're able to, if you are shipping perfect orders. So if you want to track perfect order index, that might be some of the metrics that you consider. Other metrics in the warehouse, a best practice we will use is labor, space, equipment, and technology. And those tools help optimize the receiving, storing, picking, and shipping processes to really cost effectively provide excellent customer service. And understanding how you're performing today through the use of warehousing KPIs will allow you to measure the impact of changes you can make in your operations. So what I've heard is you can't really expect improvements until you can inspect for improvements. But here's a list of common metrics from a survey of companies through the Work the Professional Association. And these metrics may be more advanced than what you need, but they should give you an idea of things to consider. So maybe you could be looking at on-time shipments. You can see what the average or the median from these respondents. I think there were 200 different companies that took the survey. Maybe fill rates, line fill rates, dock-to-stock cycle times, different types of metrics. And these are the top 10 metrics that these warehousing and distributors we're using. So you can get an idea if you're measuring these, how do you compare against best practice or the median? And if you're not measuring these, maybe you could consider to start using these as key KPIs. But once you've defined the KPIs relevant to your organization, you can determine if the metric can be measured from within your warehouse system or possibly extracted from other sources of data, such as your ERP shipping system. Next, let's take a look at the tool you can use to enable supply chain visibility and start reporting on the KPIs. The tool is called AccellosOne Pulse. AccellosOne Pulse is a web-based business intelligence tool incorporating content in the form of a KPI library, meaning we have predefined KPIs that you can have out of the box. But it also provides a mechanism for pulling in and displaying KPI data from other sources. So as long as it's a SQL database source, such as your ERP system or your shipping system, or if you have another system that you're using in the warehouse, you can possibly draw upon that data to help report the KPIs. The tool is available both as a fully integrated component of the overall AccellosOne family of supply chain products, but can also be purchased as a standalone solution. AccellosOne Pulse delivers time-sensitive graphs and charts, pointing out key criteria to aid in your decision-making process. So really what it's doing is giving you data to be more proactive in your decision-making rather than reactive. And Pulse's flexible graphical display schema presents the information in any of several user-selected graphical representations, and I'll show those in a moment, on any frequency timetable the user requires. So whether you're a floor supervisor with the need for real-time performance data, or a financial manager who may need only monthly updates, you can set those frequencies based off of updates in the charts. And AccellosOne Pulse responds to really 4 key business needs that people have around data. One, it provides real-time access to relevant data, and that's really what's important, is having timely data that's really important to your business. It's also the integrated data from multiple business applications. So as I mentioned before, you can extract data from your ERP system as well as WMS or other Accellos applications. And it's the interpretation and visibility is done to a broad audience of authorized users. So you can actually share specific KPIs with your company overall, or you can share with specific end users. It's all driven by security. And overall, the lower overall total cost of data acquisition and the use of that data results in a better, more efficient use of KPIs. The KPIs, the Pulse represents information in the form of different dashboards that again deliver the KPIs that allow you to drive your business. We also provide pivots, which are similar to an Excel pivot table, and it's directly connected to the data sources. You may be working with pivots already. And we also have alerts with user-defined thresholds against your choice of specific business processes and information that you want to have. So we'll talk a little bit about those. The dashboards, they can be built from the KPIs, again, spanning on multiple systems, or you can utilize existing KPIs that you already have pre-canned in the system. But it's also possible to develop your own KPIs to match your specific needs. And I'll go in briefly just to show how you can write your own KPIs. And views can be saved and shared across the company or specific users, as I mentioned before. User-definable pivots can also be drawn from any SQL data source and can span multiple systems. For example, again, extracting data from AccellosOne Warehouse, AccellosOne Chip, and possibly even your ERP system. And finally, Pulse can also trigger two types of alerts. There are event-driven alerts, which are generated when information is entered, changed, or deleted. We can also have non-event alerts, which mean if somebody hasn't logged in or done a transaction in the span of 5 minutes, you can get an alert that says this person either something's happened or they're just not working hard enough. You can also have data-driven alerts, which are generated based upon established criteria that you have set up in the warehouse. Alerts can also be delivered on the alerts dashboard that we have on the AccellosOne Work Center, or they can come in through emails or text messaging. It really depends on how your end users like to receive the information. But next, we'll go back into the live environment to show you how to manage KPI views and how you might use some of the KPIs to drive process improvements in your warehouse. So I'm going to go back to Nick again. If you can't see, just let me know. I'm going back into my AccellosOne workspace. So I'm back into where we left off on the inventory work center. So again, this is, you can see all the operational work centers that I'm managing. If you look down below in the lower left-hand side, you can see different tabs. So the tab I'm on now is my warehouse tab, which basically the way I have it set up is it's a way for me to look at all my operational work centers. If I wanted to just look specifically at my key performance indicators or my metrics, I've got a different tab, so I can navigate down, click on the metrics tab, and I can quickly see here I've got different canvases that I have set up for different levels of different views of information into my KPI. So here I have a view set up for warehousing activity, which might show lines picked by month, late shipments by month. So it kind of shows me an overall aggregate view of my warehouse performance. And then I've also got a more specific view called WMS picking metrics that shows kind of picking specific functionality, picking specific metrics. So again, you can see this is more of a, I call it a canvas because I can kind of create my own specific views of data that I want to see from Pulse. Here, this is the total lines picked per hour metric. It's in a graphical format. If I wanted to drill down and see the supporting data beneath my chart, I click on the chart itself, and sometimes it comes up with the supporting data, or sometimes it's a little bit slow. But it shows me the specific data, and then I can extract that data out to export it to Excel, to my local laptop, or to my local server, depending on how I want to have it done. And also export it to Word or CVS or HTML. So you can drill down into specific data. Also, if I wanted to have a toggle view, if I wanted to see the actual data itself, again, another data type view, it shows me the number of picks and the number of hours. So I could toggle the view back to my graph. And if I wanted to print this out, I could actually print it to a PDF. I could look at any local printers that I have set up or system printers and print anything I have. But what I could do is print it to a PDF and then fax it, email it out to people that have relevant need for this information. On this one here, I've only got, you saw the one before, warehousing has 6 panels. The max you can have is 6 panels per canvas. On this canvas, I have 2, so I'm just going to go in and show you how we can actually customize this and add a new view, or add a new panel onto my picking canvas. So I'm going to go, if I'm going up to the top, add the KPI as a button in the ribbon. I'm going to go add the KPI, and I'm going to select a specific company that I'm working with. This is for multi-tenant environments. If you had different companies you represented, the product is AccellosOne Warehouse, and the category is, as I mentioned before, we've got over 95 different KPIs predefined. And they're all categorized, so whichever ones you want to use. So in this situation, I'm going to use the category of picking because I'm on my picking canvas. And the associated KPIs that are predefined to the picking category show up down below. So the one I'm going to use is picked orders by user, and that's this one here. And now I can go to my next tab, the general tab. The display type will be a chart. Again, I can choose whether it's a chart or a grid. As I mentioned earlier, warehouse managers might want to see real-time data. If I was a financial manager, maybe this would only need to be refreshed daily or hourly. It may not need to be refreshed as frequently. So you can change that here in terms of how you want to see how it's going to be refreshed. And then the filters that I want to do, you can actually choose from specific date ranges, or we've got some predefined ranges here. I'm going to use this year to date as my category that I want to collect the data. And the chart is already predefined. I can select a two-dimensional or three-dimensional chart. This gets more into the cosmetics of how it's going to look. And I select Save. And if all works as planned, it brings up the new picked orders by user chart. It shows up on my new canvas. And again, you can drill down into this data if you needed to, but it just gives you an idea of how you can quickly and easily add a predefined or a pre-created key performance indicator right onto your metrics there. Also, from a presentation view, I can move these around. If I don't like that view, you can see I just selected on one there and it makes the other smaller and the one that I want to focus on bigger. Again, there are navigation panels up on the top, so I can even squeeze it down even more. Also, what we've seen with some of our customers getting creative with large flat panel TVs, they're actually LCDs. They're putting the displays, so this information might be relevant to the warehouse operators. So information that they do feel is relevant, they can put it on display, either in the break room or sometimes we just have it out on the warehouse floor. So if you put it on a big screen TV, we can actually have a little view here called the marquee view. So we can run this through and we can show the different views on a big screen TV and have that run and cycle through as operators are able to look up and kind of see the data that's kind of the data that they're presenting. And if they're being measured against this data, maybe they can get an idea, provide some incentives. Really just gives them an idea on how well they're performing or even how well the overall warehouse is performing. So you can actually see, that's again just a different view of how to do that. So I can come back and stop. And if I wanted to go back to my original view, then I'm right back to my original view. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea into how you can view KPIs. You can create different canvases specific to overall performance, like the warehouse, or you can create specific canvases specifically for picking. Let me show you some other views that have already been defined for me. So I'm going to go on my left-hand side is the Applications tab. And these are all the applications in terms of Accellos applications that I have access to. So if I have access to Pulse, I can click on the Pulse tab, and it comes up, and I'm going to look at the KPI views that I have visibility into. So all these have been created and shared with me. So if I want to see, for example, I already have the picking metrics up. If I wanted to see the receiving KPIs in my operations, I could actually just click on the receiving KPI tab or the view, and it brings up the receiving KPIs that have been associated to my responsibility or to my view. And again, it just gives me another visibility into how easily I can display this information. Alternatively, there's another one in there called inventory. Sometimes graphs are nice, but sometimes you just need to see the regular old data. You can also create KPIs and just show specifically the data format. So not everything has to be in a graphical format. You can also come up on the top here, look at the buttons. You can rename KPIs. You can take a public KPI, make it private and specific to your own needs, and you can also convert things to public and/or private for sharing as needed across your organization. Just real briefly, I'm going to close out the inventory KPI and the receiving KPI and come back and show you how you can, in general, create your own KPIs. So I'm going to go back to my Pulse application, the administration folder. I'm on the left-hand side, and look at the KPI. Click the KPIs tab, and then it brings up, again, wouldn't you know, another work center. So this work center is a KPI work center. So not something that I would focus in on receiving or picking or inventory, but it's a KPI that allows me to manage my different KPIs that have already been created or assigned to me. So here, I can actually copy KPIs. You can see I've got a copied one. I can create new ones. I can import KPIs, or I can actually start writing my own KPIs. Just to give you an idea how to write your own KPIs, over on the right-hand side, let me expand that out a little bit, is a basic SQL query. So anything, as I mentioned before, anything that's in a SQL database, and if you have general knowledge of SQL queries, you can begin to start writing your own KPIs. This is a pretty basic one. It's looking for products that are over 45 days of age. If I start navigating down, you can see you can start getting a bit more sophisticated with your SQL queries. Again, it's just some more sophisticated KPIs are going to require more knowledge, more working knowledge of SQL. But again, it just gives you an idea. It's something that you can work with us to do. You can have your partners do it, or if you know anybody in your organization that does SQL, you can have them start writing your own KPIs. So just give you an idea of how you can use what we already have assigned, or you can start writing your own, whatever suits your fancy. Now, next I want to take a look at possibly how we can actually apply the KPI to the work centers that we talked about earlier, and see how we can actually start, helping drive process improvement. So we've seen the KPIs, we've seen the work centers. In this scenario here, I'm back to my warehouse tab. So these are my warehouse processes, receiving, order, work center. I've got another one set up here called task management. So I've got a task management work center set up, and it's basically a list of all of the different tasks, the picks, the receipts, and the moves that are pending in my warehouse system. So that's a work center, and I can actually assign these different types. This one here is unassigned picks. So if I have unassigned picks, I can actually assign those to specific users, and it shows exactly what they've been assigned. So a CRB user has a few things assigned to them. I've also opened up another view here. It's a KPI view that I actually created a specific view for this example, and it's called Picking Assignments. So I've got the KPI view, and I've got the Task Management Work Center. So what I'm going to do is kind of just navigate this down and move my KPI view from Picking Assignments to the right. So now you can see I have a split panel view. So if I'm the warehouse operations manager, and I'm looking at who's doing the work, I can actually see if I squeeze it down a little bit, just so I can get a view into my picking activity, so I can squeeze it down a bit more. So now I can see these are the tasks, as I mentioned before, that are the pending task, pending unassigned picks. This shows the users that are available on the left-hand side. And let me squeeze up my KPI view just to give it, I don't want to close it all the way. So it shows me over here that these are actually this one is an unassigned pick. These are assigned to other people. And then I can see CRB has already 2 assigned picks within workflow. So if I thought, for example, I'm going to give an example here. I'm going to sort by pack slip, and then I've got to find a specific pack slip that I know has open picks associated to it. So I'm going to change my view to all of my orders. I'll scroll down to 13. Let me sort again. My pack number, as you can see, I'm just going ascending, descending, so it puts it in numerical sequence. If I scroll down, then the order that I'm looking for is 1310. And maybe it's not showing up here today. Let's see, here it is up on top. So it went started with 1. So I see that order's already been waived. It's got picks associated to it. So now, let's say I wanted to actually assign that pick to CRB, the user. So I come over here. I did that in the work center. And if I wanted to use my KPIs, then I would come back to my KPI, expand that out a little bit, and then I would refresh the KPI. CRB had 2 before we started. Had 2 picks associated. Now you can see the unassigned pick went away, and it has now been reassigned to CBR. So now CRB has 3 picks associated to that work. So when they log in the handheld device, and I didn't explain it earlier, when they log into the handheld device, you can either select orders out of a work queue, or you can actually select orders that have been assigned. So in this situation, I can see how many orders. So this is kind of a creative way to how you can start using KPIs along with the order work center to help drive the process improvements. I'm going to navigate now back to the PowerPoint just to show a couple other examples of how you can possibly use KPIs side by side. Now, I took some screenshots here. I wasn't able to get this into my demonstration environment, but this one, again, I apologize for the granularity and the poor visibility, but this one shows, again, the order work center, which is all the open sales orders that I have in my warehouse. And then I've got a KPI set up next to it. What's the different statuses of all my open orders? So if I wanted to take a look at, I have, in this situation, 50 different suspended orders. Maybe I want to take a look at why they're suspended. I could come back and see that's a big portion. So the graphical KPI is going to help drive where I need to be looking at and managing my order workflow. So that would be another way. One more way, again, bad granularity. I apologize for causing anybody a migraine. But if you happen to be running the AccellosOne schedule application that's on the left, it does dock door scheduling, and it allows you to specifically associate schedules, associate docs with specific receipts and or orders or sales orders. So here you can see I've got a specific dock door scheduled, and I've set up another KPI on the right-hand side that shows the blue is the amount of time estimated that I have expected or actually assigned to the scheduled dock door on the left-hand side. and the orange represents the amount of time it's actually going to take to process it. So I can see each one of my appointments is going to take longer than what I had actually budgeted for in my doc scheduling. So if I wanted to come back, I could adjust my doc scheduling time in the A1 schedule, and it would update the KPI in real time. So those are just some creative ways how you can start using KPIs in your live environment and helping drive process improvements. Getting in the end stretch here, leading research and information organizations are highlighting the importance of turning data into information. And reading here, warehouse and distribution center managers can and often do gather a vast amount of performance data on their operations. But the ability to use that information to make management decisions is finite. In order to prevent all the data from becoming so much noise, managers have to determine which measures are first reliable and second most useful, and then concentrate on those. From my perspective, using Pulse helps companies with this strategy. And before we conclude, let's take a look at a Pulse success story. We've got a company, Hall's Warehouse Corporation. They provide warehousing and transportation services in the Northeast, with emphasis on food products and pharmaceuticals, along with general merchandise. The company serves around 200 clients through 8 warehouse facilities, totaling 1.7 million square feet. It's ambient, cooler, and freezer space. And this is according to Hall's, and this is a case study that they validated. Pulse enabled them to institute changes that likely would not have been possible to monitor with prior technologies. They're able to get the right information at the right time to the right people. Before, they were using proprietary software. Only a couple people in the company knew how to harvest KPI type of data. And it was a time-consuming process to get it and put it into the report form. With Pulse, they've been easily mined, the data can be easily mined, and the underlying activity can be almost actionable at a glance. The KPI author at Hall's gets approximately 6 KPI requests a week, typically from new views for a new user, and the views can be made available from one user within hours upon request, and sometimes even minutes, as you can see if the KPI has already been created, as some of the ones that I showed before. Through real-time access to this information and using AccellosOne Warehouse, Hall's was able to accelerate product put away by 10%, increase labor productivity by 15%, and reduce replenishments by 13%. So each situation is different, each situation is unique, but this just gives you an idea of different ways you can use the KPIs. But in summary, you should now have a better understanding of supply chain visibility concepts and the drivers, and more importantly, why you should be interested in improving visibility and performance in your operation. You should see the value of applying operational level visibility to your warehouse in the form of various work centers, as we outlined before, and understand the AccellosOne Business Intelligence application, Pulse, and how Pulse can help you easily manage and report on your KPIs, and more importantly, drive process improvements in your warehouse. That's what I have for now, Nick. So I don't know if there are any questions. We can take those, or as I mentioned before, I'm buying a little bit of time for people to take extra.
Thank you, Chris. I just...
Nick, you there? I lost you. Nick, I can't hear you. Nick? You want to unmute the attendees, or I don't know if they can hear you either. Nick, I think I lost you.
Okay, I'm back now, but yeah, it sounds like so. If there's no questions, then we will just go ahead and wrap it up for today. I'm going to be setting a recording of this presentation within the next 24 hours, and hopefully you can join us on the Flash Shipping and Dropship webinar on August 13th. Again, we've got the benefits of Cloud WMS on the 20th, and the business case for WMS on the 27th of August. So without that, I will send this information to you in an email, and if you'd like to get in touch with Chris or myself, then just feel free to reply to that, and we will definitely set up some time to speak further. So thanks everybody for your time today, and Chris, much appreciated. Well done, and everyone have a great day.
Yeah, Nick, just quick, are we going to make the PowerPoint accessible, or did you say you would send that out? What are your thoughts?
I will send out the recording of the presentation today, and then if anyone specifically wants the PowerPoint, just reply to the email, let me know, and I'll take care of that.
Okay, we got one reply, Trevor Alton, it looks like. So, Trevor, if you would just reply to the email, thanks.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.